tonight I'm going to make, it's a beef and cheese taco, but it's made with different ingredients. So I've got some queso and I've got cube steaks. So we're going to cut up the cube steaks, and I'm going to show you how I cut them so that they're nice and tender and they're in strips. This is a poblano pepper. This actually came from my uncle's garden. We went down to Greenwood to see him, and we came back up with a whole bunch of poblanos that we cut up this morning and froze and kept most of them at Mom's for soups. But I brought one home to make this recipe because my husband and kids love it. I've got an onion. This equals a taco seasoning pack, but I've got oregano, cumin, chili powder, garlic, and smoked paprika. And then to top, got the flour tortillas to top. I've got an avocado for myself, some pico, and instead of sour cream, I'm going to use some Greek yogurt. But this is real simple and easy. And if you have cube steaks, you can get them for a good price because I didn't. This is another way to use cube steaks. So I've got my pan on, and I'm just going to dump in the onions and the peppers and get them softened. It'll also take any heat out of the poblano because I cut these earlier and they're not supposed to be hot, but guess what? They're warm. I will say my uncle sent us a picture. He froze some, and this is the last pick of his harvest, and he froze some and he made cowboy candy with some. So they're warm. So I'm going to go ahead and just get that cooked. When you get your cube steak out, it has been run through the cuber. You want to see if it pulls. If it pulls this way, we're going to cut it across that. So as you see how it pulls across, when you go to do this, it doesn't do anything. So how I like to do this, and you can do this and use this for beef stroganoff, you can use this meat for anything. But I just take it apart like that. Remember, this is the stretchy side, so we're going to cut across it. And it's tacos, so I want them in smaller pieces. So that's all we're going to do with this, and we're just going to cut this up. It's the same way I've said about flank steak, I've said about skirt steak, that you can use those tougher cuts of meat. It's a Pioneer Woman recipe, and it's, I believe, the Marlboro Man sandwich. And that's what she uses. She uses these cube steaks. And that is, I made those for years for the boys. That's when I found this with the poblanos and stuff. I said, oh my God, I could use this meat. I think this was made with ribeye, and I'm not buying ribeye. So this is all we're going to do. You could also use this for stir fries. You can use this for pretty much any steak replacement if you cut them correctly. And this day and age, unfortunately, the steaks are $16, $17 a pound. And as sad as I am to say this, because I remember when this was $3.99 or $4.99, because this is a cheaper cut of meat, it's now $8.49. So this is one way to get it to stretch. Or you could use ground beef for this too. So I've got the peppers and onions, and I'm just pushing them to the side. I want those peppers to cook a little bit more. The onions are almost there, and we're going to add the meat. And we're just going to do a real quick cook. So my pan's pretty hot. They're called minute steaks, cube steaks, for a reason. You don't want to overcook these. So we're just going to get these browned on both sides. You could also use the shaved steak you see that comes in the packages. It's cheaper than this, but this is what we're going to have tonight. So I'll show you when I go to put it together. Okay, now that we've got this cooking, and you see it's released some juices, we're going to use that liquid. So at this point, add in your taco seasoning packet, or for us, we're going to add in chili powder, cumin, and I know I'm heavy-handed with the cumin. Garlic powder, or use fresh garlic. Oregano or Italian seasoning. This is actually oregano, I grabbed that. And smoked paprika, and I think I beat the bottle up enough that it's coming out now. All right, just give this a mix. Like I said, you can add the taco seasoning at this point. And let it cook for just a minute or two. Okay, this is where you take your cheese sauce. This is why my boys loved this recipe. That's about half the container. And you're just going to go ahead and get this heated so it's all nice and gooey. And that's all there is to this. I've even used the cheese sauce and done this with chicken fajitas. The kids all loved it. I remember back in the day, and I think it was called a Cadillac chicken fajita that you could get at Chi-Chi's. Okay, I'm aging myself. And it used to come with cheese sauce on it, the queso. And this just, it gives it a nice coating. It gets it cheesy. My husband still adds more cheese. The boys add more cheese. I'm good with just this on a flour tortilla. So all I'm going to do is I put some avocado. It's a half of one avocado. I'm going to take some of that meat and the poblanos, and I'm going to be careful with the poblanos because they even smell warm. Good grief. We're going to add on some pico, which I got in mild. My husband can throw some hot sauce on this. I just thought this would look pretty. Totally not necessary, but very, very good. And then you could add some sour cream. I like to use Greek yogurt. And I have it, so I want to use it. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at with some stuff. If I've got it, I want to use it. So there we go. There's dinner. I hope this gave you some other ideas that if you see cube steaks, that you can do so many different things with it. Tonight I'm going to make a cheeseburger tater tot casserole. So it's a little twist on the tater tot casserole. You can make a burger sauce. I'm just going to use the Thousand Island because we have it in the refrigerator. But for this, I've got a pound, a little over a pound, almost a pound and a quarter of lean ground beef. I've got some mild cheddar that I'm going to shred. We don't need all of this, but some cream cheese, which is great because I need to get this out of the refrigerator. An onion, mustard, ketchup, pickles, salt, pepper, garlic, and it calls for tater tots, but I'm going to use tater rounds because that's what I prefer. So come along tonight as we throw this together, and I've already I'm preheating the oven to 400. So I've got the ground beef cooking, and I have cut up an onion. I cut up the whole onion. It was a nice sized one. We're going to leave that for the topping. I also forgot to mention I have shredded cheese. I have shredded lettuce, and I have some tomatoes. And we're going to top the bowls with the lettuce, the onions, probably add some more pickles and tomatoes. So I've got a third of a cup of cream cheese, and I just sliced it so that it would melt. We're going to add a couple tablespoons of ketchup. A good tablespoon of mustard because I like mustard. We're going to add garlic powder. Salt and pepper. And then we'll mix this up, and this is going to go in the bottom of the casserole dish, and I'm probably going to spray it so it doesn't stick. And there goes the salt. And I put the cream cheese in here first so that I was hoping it would just melt, and it did. You could put more or less in here if you want. I was also thinking of putting just a tad, just a dash of Worcestershire, just to add some flavor to it too. I can never just leave a recipe alone. It's my bad habit. But I just think, well, if you put this in it, it would taste a little bit better. I always try to convince myself that the first time I make it, I need to make it like the recipe and then change it. Yeah, well, I always end up changing it. So I'm probably going to add a tablespoon of Worcestershire to this. And I think a little bit more mustard. And just a teeny bit more ketchup. I feel like it was more cream cheese than the ketchup and the mustard. And I want those flavors a little bit more prevalent. Now it also says to chop pickles and put it in here, and I'm going to do that, and I've still got to shred my cheese. Okay, I did add the Worcestershire. I cut up 7 or 8 pickle chips. I get the thick ones from Aldi's. The one in the refrigerated case. We like pickles, so there's also going to be pickles on top of this for our bowls. And we'll just give this a good mix. I have sprayed my pan. And we'll put this in there. Okay. Put this in. Really easy. You could double the meat on this for a higher protein, bigger eaters. If my boys were home, I would probably double this. Okay, kind of get it flattened. Now I'm going to take, and I use the tater rounds because this gives them more surface, and that's what I want. So you're just going to put enough on here to cover. Actually, sorry, you put more cheese on top. So we'll add some more cheese. It says you can put it either underneath the way I'm doing it, or you can put it on top of the tater tots. I actually want the tater tots to brown and crisp, so that's why I'm doing it this way. And I'm just going to add these all, and then we'll toss this in the oven at 400 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes until it's all nice and all this is fully cooked. So check it, because I used the thinner tater tots, it only took 25 minutes. It looks delicious. Now let me show you how I'm going to top it. So it's nice and creamy. I'm going to add on some extra onions. because I like onions on my cheeseburgers. I've got some pickles, some tomatoes, and finally some lettuce. And I got shredded lettuce at the grocery store, and I don't think they gave me the very nicest that there was. And then I'm going to use the Thousand Island, but you could make a burger sauce. You could do whatever you want. This works. I love a Big Mac. I'm not trying to make a Big Mac meal or anything else. But I just thought this sounded really good. Something different. I had most of the ingredients. The only thing I think I had to buy was the tater tots and the shredded lettuce. So there you go. Thanks for joining me.